Good day everyone, this is Nemesis and today we are going to take a look at the mesmer. I know I made an ultimate hybrid damage dealing build for the Necromancer and now it's time for the mesmer to get something like this as well. I originally got the idea of making guides for the mesmer after I had a really unpleasant experience in fractals with a few mesmers. They were really confident with themselves and let's just say they had no damage, no survivability, no nothing. Then I thought, that's it. Next class I'm undertaking will be the mesmer. I made the build and after that I checked the mesmer forums to see if I can find anything similar. And it turns out there are so many guides on the mesmer forums, and I didn't look too much through them, but they seem to be well made. So to everyone that is watching this, I'm not trying to take any subscribers or followers from the current top mesmer players. I'm merely doing my contribution, since I already made the build and I'm really proud of what I have achieved, even though there's a catch to this. There's a catch, but I have a solution for the future, and it's really important that I make and showcase this build, and then I will talk in the future videos about PvE and how ArenaNet can improve PvE a bit. In this video I will go through the gear, the traits, the weapons, everything building from the ground up, how you can make a mesmer, and last but not least, the rotation. So let's start. What does a hybrid damage dealing mesmer mean? It means that it has to have bursting capabilities as well as sustain capabilities. Bursting as in power, direct damage, and sustain, which means some form of condition that keeps staying on the target and it's damage over time. For that we need to first get some weapons. So power weapons, what should it be? Let's take a look at the sword. We have vulnerability and power damage, and a blink with cripple and more vulnerability. So right off the bat we see that the sword seems to be a great bursting type weapon. Offhand weapon, offhand sword, so block plus damage and damage with a combo finisher. So we can go for sword. I know the popular way to go is like sword pistol or sword focus. I don't like sword pistol. Create an illusion that unloads its pistol on your foe. This is a range thing, and I will explain why once we get to the rotation part. And this is daze, stun, blind, and it's more of a CC, and it's like I said, it's a range thing. And once we get to the rotation part, and the next video about the mesmer will be a glass cannon version of the mesmer, you will see where pistol fits in my opinion. And the focus, swiftness and cripple, as well as create a phantasm that attacks your target and creates a defensive bubble protecting itself and allies from projectiles. This, in my opinion, is a support type weapon. And once we get to the rotation, you will see why you don't actually need this type of support, this type of defensive capabilities. So we stick with sword, and we need, for the sustain part, we need condition dealing weapon. The staff does bleeding, burning, vulnerability, does a bit of vulnerability. It's let's see what else. Teleport away from your target, summon an illusion that deals damage for each unique condition on the target. Chaos armor gives yourself a random boon and a random condition to your foe whenever you're hit, and this is AoE buffing for yourself and debuffing for the allies. So to me, a staff is more of a support weapon, and as you can see, the whole mesmer theme is sort of this chaotic caster. So random boon, random condition, illusion, that sort of thing. They ArenaNet has worked really hard to make each class feel and play different, and they nailed it on this occasion as well. You know, I emphasized when I did the Necromancer tutorials, I emphasized greatly on how the class feels and what role, not only in terms of mechanic, but what role does each skill and each weapon have to feel and play unique and different. So now the staff, scepter, and bolt of energy at your target. Block your next attack, counter by creating a clone that casts some of this. This is power damage. And we have confusion, high power damage and confusion. Okay, so this seems like the weapon that adds condition that does high amount of damage. Since we cannot really rely on bleeding on burning, because there's not many weapons that apply bleeding and burning, Scepter adds confusion, which is the distinctive mesmer condition. There are other classes that apply confusion, but mesmer sort of does it the most elegantly, especially since Cryofrustration adds confusion. So basically it's confusion tends to be more of a mesmer type skill, and it even fits with the theme, like I said. So offhand we have blind, burn, stealth, all in one, and phantasmal mage, which adds even more confusion. So these are our weapons: source sword and scepter torch. Okay, we are moving on to traits. I'm skipping over the slot skills because it's part of a rotation. Like I said, the rotation is the most important part of this build, and the utilities will be selected so that they fit a certain rotation. So traits. We know we need to do power damage and confusion type damage, condition type damage. So for power, to increase your power damage, your bursting capabilities, you need critical strike chance, critical strike damage, and power. To increase your condition type damage, you need condition damage and condition duration, and also in some cases you require precision to add certain condition on crit, but not so much in this case. So we look at the passive boons. We have power, that's good, and condition duration. Condition duration helps not only the confusion but also the vulnerability, which directly increases the power type damage that you might do. So we know we should put something in domination because we have power and condition duration. Moving on, we have precision and critical strike damage. Precision is critical strike chance. So basically critical strike chance and critical strike damage is exactly what we need here. It's exactly what we need. This is like the bread and butter of a bursting build, a power type build. Moving on, we have toughness, boon duration, not really interesting for us. We have vitality and healing. We are doing an ultimate hybrid damage dealing mesmer. So healing, vitality is not for us, and condition damage and shatter, recharge rate. And we know for the necromancer we had something with critical strike damage and life force generation. So this is again something that increases the effectiveness of your unique class mechanic. So instead of life force, we have something that helps the shattering skills of the mesmer, and this is paired up with condition damage. And a lot of people say that, well, this is sort of weird. How come? Because there are a lot of shatter builds out there. The most important part, we will finally put to rest the question to shatter or not to shatter. A lot of people complain. They made shatter builds and they go like, oh, we want to shatter a lot, we just want to do a power bursting shatterer. And why do the shatter recharge rate is paired up with condition damage. That's exactly like for the Necromancer. Why is precision teamed up with condition damage in curses? Because bleeds don't crit, so what's up with that? And I explained really nicely why that is. So this is exactly why hybrid builds are permitted. So we know we need to put something in domination, dueling and illusion. So we satisfy the premise of a hybrid mesmer build. But how much and what? So we go into domination and we have illusions of vulnerability. Inflict 3 stacks of vulnerability when you interrupt a foe. Very good minor trait. Whenever we interrupt, we get some vulnerability on the target. 5 seconds. Mind Rack causes 20% more damage. This is Mind Rack. This is one of our bursting type skills. So it causes 20% more damage by default. Very, very important trait. Dazing your foe also applies 5 stacks of vulnerability. So you have vulnerability when dazing and 3 stacks when you interrupt. And you can interrupt with daze, so you have 8 stacks of vulnerability. They go really well together. Torch skill removes condition and reduces the cooldowns of a torch skill by 20%. This build is more or less vulnerable to conditions, since most of mesmers know that any decent shatter build or something like that is more or less vulnerable to condition and relies on distortion and invisibility and that sort of thing to not get conditions on them in the first place. So whenever you use a torch skill, you remove conditions and you will see that will stack really well with something else. It's beautiful. Trust me on this one. You need this trait. And moving on, 5% increased damage to inactive foes. You're not going to get a lot of inactive foes in PvE, and this minor trait might be taken instead of this one, but I prefer getting 1 stack of might instead of this one. You will see why. Okay, the Grandmaster, any of these two. Mantras can be activated 3 times before needing to be channeled. 50% chance to cause 1 second stun whenever you daze the target. You're not going to daze your target that much in this build, so we stop here. This is where we stop. So this is how we know why we stop here, because the last things don't do much for us. So we lost 100 power and another 10% condition duration, but we have to remember we need to go into dueling and illusions as well. So we stop here for now. Moving on into dueling. Gain 5 seconds of vigor on delivering a critical hit. The effect only trigger once every 5 seconds. So vigor seems a bit weird, because mesmer aren't really known for their really high mobility, and I don't mean by portals. I know mesmer has a lot of mobility with portals and can build that he teleports around with blink and portals and can get haste and stuff. I know. But I'm talking like elementalist type mobility, like they run all over the place. So vigor, you can dodge more. But this will help this build. This minor trait will help this build so much, you will see. Your phantasms have fury. Actually, this isn't that important in this build. Plus 50 precision while wielding a one-handed sword or spear, and reduces the recharge of sword and spear skills by 20%. Illusions inflict bleeding on critical hits. This is really weird placement of the minor trait in my opinion, but it will serve a really good purpose when doing a hybrid build, and it can serve an even better purpose when you're doing a full condition build, which aren't many of, because you will see. We will get to the catch of the build in a few seconds. Create a clone at your current position when you dodge. So whenever you crit, you gain vigor, and whenever you dodge, you create an extra clone. Extra clone is useful for getting maxed clones, so you can mind rack with 20% more damage. So as you can see, this minor trait goes really well with deceptive evasion to create an extra clone. Moving on, your illusion causes 3 seconds of confusion when they are killed. So as you can see, confusion in a trait line that has precision and critical strike damage, which is for bursting. This is really an extra reason that facilitates creating hybrid builds. So confusion, exactly what we need to make this build a hybrid, not just bursting but a hybrid. So confusion. Last, 5 seconds of fury when you interrupt a foe, yeah, and 5% more damage for each radiant mantra. Mantra and fury on interrupt, not really a fan of this. So we lose critical strike damage, we lose a bit of critical strike damage here, about 5%, and 50 precision in terms of stat, but we made that up with blade training. Okay, moving on, we have illusion summoning skills recharge 20% faster. Not a bad minor trait. It's there, might as well use it. It's not like we have a choice. Confusions you inflict last 33% longer. So we have 20% condition duration with 33% longer confusion duration. That's 50%. And if you want to get close to the cap of 100% condition duration, you use, where is it? Condition duration. So you have 35 from here, 36 plus 33, that's 69, with 20, that is 89. 90 condition duration, close to the 100% condition duration cap. So just from the fact that we went 20 in domination with this trait and this food, you're close to the cap for condition duration. And we know that condition duration is really important. No matter what condition you are using, the more stacks you have, the higher DPS you have from the sustain type damage, because confusion is like bleeding and stacks in intensity. Only burning stacks doesn't stack in intensity. So really good major trait. All shatter skills inflict confusion. So whenever you shatter, you inflict confusion, and whenever illusions are killed, they inflict confusion. So as you can see, the condition duration amplifies vulnerability duration, but also confusion. And whenever you shatter, that means you burst. Whenever you burst, you sustain your sustain type damage. So your confusion, whenever you shatter, you add more confusion, which is basically you burst while you power up your condition side of the hybrid build. This is a really good minor trait. It's actually should be a major trait if you ask me. 10% higher critical strike chance with mind rack. So whenever you mind rack, you have 10% increased critical hit chance. That goes really well with the fact that mind rack does 20% more damage. And as you can see from everything that you just heard so far, you realize that in this build we are going to shatter. Why? It's sort of complicated to make a decision in a full glass cannon build. It's like to shatter or not to shatter. What should we do? Should we shatter? Should we let the clones do more damage before we shatter? But there is absolutely no confusion here, since absolutely no confusion, since while we burst with 10% critical hit chance increase and 20% more damage. Whenever the clones get shattered, we apply confusion. Whenever we interrupt, we apply vulnerability, and whenever we daze, we apply vulnerability. And also illusions inflict confusion when killed. So all that combined means that whenever we mind rack, we burst and apply confusion. Not to mention that we can simply just apply confusion at double time, which is just amazing. And last is shatter strength. Shattering illusions grant you 1 stack of might per illusion over 10 seconds. The way we are shattering, the way in the rotation, the way we will be shattering will actually grant you quite a bit of might, and this also increases your condition damage by extra 50 by an extra 50, and your shatter recharge rate by an extra 5%. Either this minor trait or this one, but I take this one for the psychological effect you will have in World vs. World. So moving on to the gear, this is where the interesting part comes in. So I moved to a new location, so I'm no longer down level, so you can see the stats that the gear, this particular gear combination, can offer me. So the gear is the Rampager. I am using the Rampager stat gear. Power, precision and condition damage. Power for the bursting, precision for bursting, because this time, unlike for the Necromancer, precision doesn't increase my chance to apply bleeding and therefore keep my sustain type damage up. Precision is once again for the bursting type, and condition damage is for the sustain type damage in this build. So power, precision and condition damage with ruby orb inside everything. Unlike the Necromancer, when we got condition duration, as you saw, if you eat one piece of food, you no longer need to increase your condition duration because you're almost at the cap, the 100% condition duration cap. So we can afford to get ruby orbs in all of the equipment. So power, precision, condition damage, power, precision, condition damage, everything is power, precision, condition damage with ruby orbs inside. Weapons. Yeah, phone again, sorry about that. Okay, and for the weapons, precision, toughness and condition damage. So we have condition damage as the highest stat, and superior sigil of generosity. 60% chance to transfer a condition to your foe on critical hit. This sigil cannot be used in structured PvP, but is immensely helpful when it comes to World v World and PvE. Superior sigil of corruption, gain 10 condition damage whenever you kill a foe, max 25 stacks, that's 250 extra condition damage. I'm not using it now, it's not charged, but as you can see, I will break the 1000 condition damage mark. So if we switch, we have sword, power, precision, crit damage, power, precision, crit damage. We have superior sigil of generosity again, and crit chance. Superior sigil of accuracy, 5% increase critical chance. We have the prototype fractal capacitator with berserker stats, power, precision, crit damage. Here is where it gets interesting. For the bursting part, we know we need power, precision and crit damage, and for the sustain part, we know we need condition damage and condition duration. We no longer, for the mesmer, we don't really need precision, so it's a bit confusing, but usually precision is the middleman between bursting and sustain type damage. But since mesmer doesn't really use precision to apply even more condition type damage, it's you'll get used to it, don't worry. So the one stat combination that offers all of this are the celestial stats. So we get celestial amulet alongside celestial rings from fractals, solaria and lunaria, and the eyes of Abaddon. As for the earrings, either get celestial statted earrings once you get enough guild. You can use the ancient Karka, or you can use even ruby orichalcum earring of the berserker, which are the exotic earrings, whatever you want, either celestial stats or berserker stats or whatever, it's not really that important. So here is where it gets really interesting. In PvE, you either use this food, bowls of butternut squash soup, or super veggie pizza, if you want to have more condition type damage. In PvE you won't want to have more condition type damage, since regrettably condition type damage, the confusion in this form of condition type damage, the confusion isn't really that much used by the PvE content at the moment, which is really sad because confusion is really a very nice mechanic. So we will go for, let's say, crit damage and precision. It's they're cheap. As you can see, I can buy hundreds of them. It's no problem. So we have 60 critical strike chance and 91% critical strike damage. And when we switch for the sustain, we have 800 condition damage that with the sigil can get up to 1000 condition damage. 1000 condition damage and 91 critical strike damage. And as you can some of you know, if you get the best gear in the game, you can only get up to like 120 critical strike damage. So basically you lose 30% critical strike damage, so from 120 down to 90 critical strike damage, and for that you gain nearly 1000 condition damage, which is immensely helpful, especially in World v World where shatter builds, glass cannon shatter builds are having sort of a hard time getting through people that have really high toughness, that focus on toughness, because that mitigates direct damage a lot. So for those people you have confusion, and once we get to the rotation you're really going to love me for it. So we have, once again, power is around 2800, 2900, critical strike chance 60%. But we know that when we use Mind Rack, we have 10% increase. 10% increase in Mind Rack, that means we have actually 70% critical strike chance with Mind Rack. And there's another trick here. It's superior sigil of accuracy doesn't actually show in the tooltip. So actually at the moment we have 65% critical strike chance and Mind Rack has 75% critical strike chance. If we get Fury, you get to 95% critical strike chance on Mind Rack, which is just mind-blowing. And you do a Mind Rack with 20% increased damage and 91% critical strike damage. The Mind Racks are insane. You do so much damage you don't even realize, and you can do even more in a shatter build, but it's really worth it to sacrifice 30% critical strike damage to get 1000 condition damage with the sigil activated. So these stats are actually insane. These stats are insane. Before we take it to a test run, here is when we will actually take a look at the skills a bit. So we block and block. We have two blocks. We are going to shatter a lot. So we get clones, which is a stun breaker, another clone which is stealth and stun breaker, and the third utility is actually your choice. You can choose whatever you want. This is what I call my free slot. In PvE you use Time Warp, and in World vs World you use Moa. So we have one blur, two blurs, I mean one distortion effect, second distortion effect, one block, an extra block, one stealth and an extra stealth, three stun blockers, two blocks and two stealths, as well as two distortion effects. So if you calculate how much of everything you have, it's actually insane. And the thing is, this works in PvP because all players react the same. I mean, players and mobs sort of react the same when a target vanishes or when a target blocks. So it can be used in PvE as well as PvP. Unlike other classes, you have to have sort of separate builds for PvE and PvP. But this one actually doesn't really have to have separate builds. So let's actually see what this block looks like. I just did 2.5k and let's block some more. Come on. 2.7, 2.6, okay, something like that. Okay, if we take a look, okay, if we take a look at this skill, 5 stacks of confusion make you, actually it will be more once I power up my siege, but doesn't matter. So you get 1200 damage on skill and 764 confusion. Together you add about 2k DPS, and with the burning, which is 1600 damage, that's about 4k damage, 4k DPS, depending on how fast the mobs use skill. The problem is in PvE not many mobs use skills, and confusion doesn't trigger on all skills and on channeling skills. It's really complicated and bad at the moment, but still. Okay, and this does, let's see how much damage this does. $3k, and we shatter some more, and it's actually not bad, not bad. It's iffy because I didn't do my rotation, am I right? So let's see a bit more of a rotation then, and after that we go somewhere else, because we actually cannot do the rotation on mobs because we kill them too fast. So this is actually the only place I can do my rotation, because for you guys to actually understand what is going on, I need to have a target with a lot of HP, and to properly do the rotation, target doesn't need to die and doesn't need to make me dodge a lot, so I mess up the rotation, and it's sort of complicated since there's a full potential to the rotation, but you will not use it as often, especially in PvE, since confusion unfortunately isn't used that much as a mechanic by the monsters in PvE. But fear not, I have made this build, can be used really well with really high success in World v World, and in PvE you don't lose that much. You can still play a shatter build and you only lose about 30% critical strike damage, as I have demonstrated with the stats. So that is the thing. In PvE it would be so beautiful. Think about it, you have the ability to apply confusion each time you shatter, and the confusion can be spread with a necromancer epidemic, and you apply even more confusion while bursting. Mesmer could really have its place in PvE if only confusion would interact a bit different with the PvE mobs, but I have a suggestion for the PvE content in Guild Wars 2 that will actually, in my opinion, will make the Guild Wars 2 PvE like the next generation of just the future of MMORPG PvE. So I've made this build just out of the principle of it, even though the content in which you can use it is fairly limited. The build itself, the build system is beautiful, and the confusion shouldn't be changed. The confusion mechanic shouldn't be changed, rather the PvE content should be adjusted to fit this mechanic. So we start with going invisible, and you summon this while invisible, and already we have 9 stacks. We block if need be, and as you can see what I've done so far, I went into stealth. When I get out of stealth, they have blindness and they are burning. While I'm in stealth, I apply confusion. While exactly when I get out of stealth, I apply even more confusion with the high channeling skill, and the people, the mobs or the players are blind, so they cannot hit me right away. And after that I put my block up. So basically in this rotation I'm more or less invincible, because they don't see me. When they see me, they are blind, and right after that I block, and if they don't hit me there, I basically make them blind again, and then I switch. So once again from the top, go into stealth, summon while in stealth. They're blind and I block, or I blind, then I switch, dodge, jump, burst, distorted, block, into stealth, into summon, switch, block again, no need, burst, and everything is off of cooldown and you can repeat. So what I did in the second part, as you can see, I have included a dodge in the mix. So I'm either invisible, or they're blind, or I'm distorted, or I'm blocking at all times. There's like such a little window in which they can hurt me. Think about it, I'm invisible. Whenever I get out of invisibility, they are blind. While I'm invisible, I am applying confusion. After that, I'm blocking, or I'm making them blind again. After that, I switch and I dodge and I add a clone so I can burst some more. And then I jump to them. And immediately when I jump, I'm blurred. After I'm blurred, I block. If I don't block, I daze and apply vulnerability. As you can see, I apply, whenever I daze, I apply even more vulnerability. And if I interrupt, I apply even more vulnerability. Right? The vulnerability will stay until I can dodge one more time and burst. And while I burst, I apply even more confusion, so I have 8 stacks, and with the shattering I have an extra 3-4 stacks depending on the situation, and I have an average of 10-12 stacks of confusion on the target at all times. I'm either invisible, or they're blind, or I'm blocking, or I'm distorted, or I'm even more invisible with 3-4 stun breakers. And these mechanics work against PvE mobs as well as players. So once again, from the top, the full rotation. And not to mention the heal, which reflects projectile, just in case you need. You have seen the insane stats that this build provides. Keep in mind, this is actually 65% critical strike chance, and I have 10% increased critical strike chance, so that's 75% critical strike chance on Mind Rack. And I'm either blocking or invisible, or they're blind, or I'm distorted. They can almost never ever hit me, neither the PvE mobs, neither the players. So it's just beautifully and so elegantly designed, this build. Now you will finally understand why I had to make this build, even though it's not as effective in PvE, since PvE doesn't use the confusion mechanic, sadly. But if I have my way with this suggestion that I will be making in the following videos, that will soon change. So we start off by going into stealth, putting this and blinding him. There we go. Oh man, come on, hit me. See, that's the thing, I can't really show the combo, but let's try again. So I'll try to do faster this time. Go, come, blind, into block, blind, and I would have blocked, and this into stealth, and switch into block, and stealth is ready again. So that's the thing, this is on a 11-second cooldown, and while you are off, while your mind rack is on cooldown, you still do something with the confusions. That's the whole idea of the build, the hybrid. It's bursting plus sustain in form of confusion, if only the mobs would take better benefit from it. Because as you can see, let's say this one, stealth into summon, into, okay, his block, and he's gone. and I would do much more if the mobs would have more HP. So yeah, that's the rotation. One more time, because I know you like it. Blocked. And some more. As for the last part of it all, the build, as you can see, has almost no condition removals, and the last utility skill is, like I said, you can use whatever you want. You can use a null field if you want, if you're struggling with conditions, but every time you go into stealth or you summon this little guy that adds confusion, you lose conditions. And the most beautiful part is that every time you blur frenzy, you blink to blur frenzy, since you have such a high critical strike chance with the sigil that has 60% chance to transfer condition to your foe with a 10-second cooldown, there's nothing worse after all of this, after all of the blind and block and distort and invisible, and after all of this, there's nothing worse than to finally manage to put some conditions on the mesmer, only to have them all transferred back to you. And immobilize is a condition, so you immobilize with this, and if you transfer even more immobilize back, that's just evil in my opinion. And not to mention 1, 2, 3 stun breakers. It's virtually uncc'able. In this build you're virtually uncc'able by normal means. Immobilize still can be done, but not so much. So let's see if we can find a small victim. Keep in mind that all this build is missing is speed, movement speed, and if you're running with a small Zerg, you'll always have movement speed on, because there's going to be someone that will speed you. There is no need to get the focus for the speed. Like I said, it's sort of a support weapon, and you need your sword as an offhand weapon so you can block, and your speed will be there. And if you get Fury, you have close to 100% critical strike chance on Shatter. It's such a beautiful and elegant build. It's too bad it's not that viable in PvE for now. But I've made it in the event that PvE changes for the better when it comes to the confusion mechanic, and I believe it will change for the better, since ArenaNet invested a lot into this game and the build system is top-notch, and I believe they will fix the game to fit confusion rather than removing it from PvE entirely. So I will make a suggestion to help on that front, and hopefully this build will be as viable for PvE as it is for World v World. So let's find ourselves some victims. Oh, many victims. So let's choose this one, and we go into stealth, we apply some more, we block, we stealth, we burst, and we go some more for second round. Okay, that one's done. And block if need be, go into stealth, summon some stuff, heal, choose this target, burst a bit, switch, stealth. I'm no longer here, my friend, while I'm in stealth, and then I don't even care what they are doing. Honestly, I don't care what the players I'm doing. I'm just doing my rotation, and people die around me just because. And let's find some more people. That's one of the qualities of the mesmers. There are some classes which play as a counter. They wait for you to start something, and then they counter you. And those classes, such as the necromancer, they play on the enemy's terms. You forever need to counter. But the mesmer actually can be an initiator. Too many. But they're not going to get me, because I just blink. Oh, he's feisty. Let me see. Where are you? Hit me. 3k. Woo! Yeah. What happened, man? What happened? Where you going? Where you going? I block a bit. Oh, they're running. And I stealth and I get away. Poor guys, they're actually fighting me over. Maybe I can sneak by. What? So let's see now. We start with the scepter and torch. And we go into stealth. Apply confusion. A lot of confusion. Switch and burst. Target that. Where is everyone? Okay, he's dead. And I switch, go into stealth. Burn all these people. And more of this. I don't even know what I'm doing. And I don't even care because I'm killing everything. Come on now. We need a smaller Zerg because this can't really demonstrate much. Can I get a 1v1 please? Come here. Hello. Goodbye. I poke you.
Come on, hit me. I'll hit back.
Come on now.
Getting healthy.
Hit me? Never mind. Hit me now? Oh man, come on.
Can't see anything.
Where'd he go? Hit me. Come on. Did he run? Oh man. So here we go. We have a small engagement here. And I go into stealth. Put some burning on all these guys. Block some hits. Or blind. Put some more confusion. As you can see, it ticks really nicely. Immobilize and finish him off. That was so easy, it was almost disgusting. And he's oh, I'm getting bursted. Well, that sucked. Leave me alone. There we go. Here, block just in case. Nah, I don't need to. Blind when I come out. Oh, that one. Come here. Dazed and dead. I should really... I have a few clones at times that do nothing, and then you should really use Distort for even more of the close to invulnerable effects. So the final stats are something like this. If you want to have more sustained type damage, as in confusion for whatever reason, maybe you want to do more AoE, team up with Necromancer that has Epidemic, you use Super Rare Veggie Pizza, and that adds 36% condition duration and 30 condition damage. That would put you around 1100 condition damage once the sigil is at maximum stacks. And you will also have in the condition based, on the condition based side 36 condition duration with, what is it, 33 with 20% from domination, that's 89% condition duration, close to 90, close to the 100% condition duration cap for the confusion. But if you want to go on the burst side, you use butternut squash soup, blah blah blah, and as you can see, you have almost 3000 attack, 60 critical strike chance, but it's a 5% critical strike chance increase from, and if you don't believe me, watch this. See, nothing increases. Because I have the same amount of precision, and it switches to torch. But as you can see, the 5% critical strike chance from the sigil of accuracy doesn't show in the tooltip. So that's 65% critical strike chance, and mind rack has actually 75% critical strike chance. So 3000 power, 65% critical strike chance, 75% critical strike chance on mind rack, 2000 armor, 17k, almost 17k health, but a bit of healing power, shatter recharge rate by 25%, 91 critical strike damage, and the condition has been, I went through the condition side when we switch to burst. So these are the final stats, and like I said, whenever I interrupt with the block that is a daze, I inflict vulnerability. Whenever I daze, I inflict even more vulnerability. So when I hit with this, it's madness. A lot of vulnerability, and the rest of the traits you already know. This was the ultimate mesmer damage hybrid build. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed the build. It really dominates World v World, and it is viable, but not as viable at the moment in PvE. I have explained why, but hopefully for the future it will be. So finally, the answer to the question to shatter or not to shatter has been provided, I hope. As you've seen, everything has been explained from the ground up, and the actual creation of this beautiful build has been made possible by ArenaNet's top-notch build system. So until next, was that a bear? So until next time, feel free to comment in the section below, and also tell me if you want to see a lot of footage of World v World using this build, since this time I gathered up a bit of footage, but actually it's getting late. I worked a lot on making the build, and running around without a team of my own, beating Zerg and not being able to do a lot of honorable 1v1s isn't actually enjoyable at the moment. Isn't actually what I had in mind, and also I don't want to include a lot of World v World footage in a tutorial that is meant to be a guide. So I will make a separate World v World video in which I showcase the capabilities of this build in World v World. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But until next time, enjoy your gaming, have a good day.